The Nissan GT-R R35 did something almost rude. It arrived wearing a Nissan badge, looked like a technical device on wheels, and started hunting cars that cost much more money. For years, people called it the supercar killer. But now the R35 is gone. After an 18-year production run, Nissan says the final R35 GT-R has rolled off the line. So the real question is not just why it was fast, it is why this car made the whole supercar world uncomfortable. Before the R35, the GT-R name already had serious history. Skyline GT-Rs had built the Godzilla myth, especially with the R32, R33 and R34. But the R35 was different. It was not just another Skyline. Nissan separated it into its own model and built something that felt more like a machine for humiliating spec sheets. In 2007, Nissan introduced a car with a hand-built 3.8-litre twin-turbo V6, all-wheel drive, a rear transaxle dual-clutch layout, and electronics designed to make performance repeatable. This mattered because old-school supercars often felt dramatic, fragile, exotic, and difficult. The GT-R felt like it had read the rules and found the cheat code. It did not need butterfly doors. It did not need a screaming badge from Italy. It did not need to look delicate, handmade, or impossible to live with. The R35's whole personality was colder than that. It was the car that showed up with data, traction, turbo torque, and an attitude that said, "Prove I am not faster." The heart of the R35 was the VR38 Det. Nissan's own heritage material lists the early R35 with 480 PS and 588 Nm of torque. Nissan also described the layout as an independent transaxle 4WD system with the dual-clutch transmission located at the rear. That was a big part of the magic. The GT-R was front-engined, but it was not engineered like a normal front-engined sports car. The driveline layout, all-wheel drive, torque management, tires, aero, and launch behavior all worked together. It did not just chase one heroic lap, it made speed feel repeatable. That repeatability was the scary part. A traditional supercar could feel like an event. The GT-R felt like a system. Point it, launch it, measure it, improve it, argue about it online, then do it again. That is why the R35 scared people. It made ordinary drivers feel closer to numbers that used to belong to much more expensive cars. Then came the numbers. Nissan's own materials talk about the GT-R's Nurburgring story. A 7-minute 38-second run in 2007, faster times after that, and later the GT-R Nismo with track options recording 7 minutes 8.679 seconds. We have to say this carefully. Lap time claims always need context, and the fastest Nismo run involved track-focused options. But for the internet, the message was simple. A Nissan had turned the Nurburgring into a marketing weapon. The GT-R became the car people used in arguments. Against Porsche, against Lamborghini, against Ferrari, against anything expensive enough to feel offended. That is how a technical achievement becomes mythology. And the mythology worked because the R35 did not feel like fantasy. It looked heavy. It looked blunt. It looked almost too logical. That made every upset more painful for the exotic cars around it. Losing to something beautiful is one thing. Losing to something that looks like an engineering department made a threat is different. And then there is the part that made the story feel more special. Nissan says a small team of 9 Takumi master craftspeople hand-assembled the VR38 Det engines at its Yokohama plant, with each engine carrying a name plaque. That matters because the R35 could seem cold from the outside. All-wheel drive, computers, data, lap times, launch control, numbers. But underneath the machine image, there was still a human ritual attached to the engine. That contrast is one of the reasons the car stuck. The R35 was not only a spreadsheet car, it had a strange emotional split. Robotic from the outside, personal under the hood. For a car accused of being too digital, that tiny engine plaque became one of the most human details in the entire story. But the GT-R was never a normal cheap performance car. It became more attainable on the used market, but running one was still serious. Tires, brakes, transmission service, fluids, launch control history, tuning history, accident history, and neglected maintenance can all turn the dream into a very expensive lesson. And because the GT-R became a tuner icon, a used example needs extra caution. A stock, documented R35 and a heavily modified car with missing history are not the same thing. That does not make the GT-R bad. It makes it exactly what it always was: a serious machine. This is also why the used GT-R market is so interesting. Some cars were loved by careful owners, some were tuned hard, some were launched, tracked, repaired, and sold with stories missing. The badge may say Nissan, but the bills do not behave like a normal used Nissan. The wildest thing about the R35 is how long it survived. Nissan says about 48,000 R35 GT-Rs were produced across the 18-year run. Over that time, power increased, Nismo versions got sharper, the car evolved, and the world around it changed completely. When it launched, the GT-R felt futuristic. By the end, it felt old school because the future had moved toward hybrids, EVs, regulations, and much more complicated supercars. That made the R35 even more interesting. It lived long enough to become both a technology icon and a mechanical dinosaur. And that is a rare thing. Most performance cars get replaced before they become symbols of two different eras. The R35 started as the future. It ended as one of the last old-school monsters still standing, even while the world moved toward quieter, heavier, more electrified speed. So why did the Nissan GT-R R35 become the supercar killer? Because it made performance feel measurable. Because it took a Nissan badge into rooms where people expected Italian drama and German precision. Because it was not trying to be charming in the traditional way. It was trying to win. And that is why, even after production ended, the R35 still feels dangerous. Not because it was perfect, because it changed the argument. Before the R35, supercar status was partly about theatre. After the R35, everybody had to answer a colder question. What can it actually do? If you want more car stories, buyer warnings, and engine legends, subscribe to Speed TV 21.